high, cool, and dry. Down here at sea level, the temperature was in the high 90s, and the humidity was running at a close race for the 100 mark. I did notice, as I went past, that Priscilla Decker didn't look quite as dewy at short range as she had across the room. She was getting on towards 25, I judged, and she was beginning to show just a hint of the dried-up look of the professional virgin, which is what happens to them if they're left on the vine instead of being picked, so to speak, at the proper time. I didn't know whether this was good or bad from my point of view, but at least I wouldn't have to make allowances for extreme youth. She'd had the years. If she hadn't taken advantage of them, that wasn't my fault. That was all there was to it. I didn't look to see where she went. I wasn't supposed to pay her any attention. She was supposed to find me when the time came. I waited for my suitcase to be unloaded. I don't think flying is going to be really practical until they invent self-propelled luggage to match the planes, and was driven to the Hotel Playa by a genial robber who charged me 20 pesos, about $1.60, which was obviously too much since he was disappointed when I didn't give him an argument. There was a reservation waiting for me here, but it didn't really matter. The winter season wouldn't begin for a month or so yet, and they had lots of room. Playa means beach in Spanish, and they were situated right on theirs. It seemed like a hell of a good idea, so after making sure the air conditioner was going full blast in my room, I changed into trunks and walked out there. Some pretty big waves were breaking against the shore. Well, big for a calm summer day, but I'd recently learned a bit about surf and swimming in the line of duty, and I watched the crests briefly to get the timing, and dove under one and paddled out a ways, ducking beneath the white stuff as it came at me. There were some other people playing around out there, including a woman in a white satin bathing suit, a sleek one-piece job, not a bikini, who caught my eye for some reason, perhaps just because I have that kind of an eye and she was the only woman venturing out that far. She swam pretty well, but with a European touch to her style that I couldn't quite identify. Maybe she behaved just a bit as if she'd been brought up on the breaststroke and the crawl were a later accomplishment. She was quite slender, almost thin, and her hard adult body, sheathed in wet white satin, was a lot sexier than most of this soft nymphette stuff you see on the beach covered by practically nothing but a good tan. Something about her had aroused my curiosity, if you want to call it curiosity. So when she headed towards shore, I gave her a minute or so and then picked up a crest, paddled hard to match its speed, and let it carry me in. A good-sized breaking wave, even a summer wave, can give you a pretty rough ride. It's kind of like being shaken by an angry dog. I cut out of it before it buried my head in the sand and stood up. I'd been carried past the woman, and I turned casually to seaward as I pounded the water out of my ears, and there she was, coming towards me, smiling faintly. "I wondered how long it would take you to recognize me, Matthew," she said. For a moment I still wasn't quite sure. I mean, the lady whose name popped into my mind had been pretty good at changing her appearance to suit the job, but she'd always been a fairly well-developed specimen of womanhood. She'd often been described as sexy in official reports, sometimes even as voluptuous, but never as slender. But it was Vadia, all right, there was no doubt about it. I'd slept with her a couple of times, and shot her once. I ought to know. I said, "I'm ashamed of you, Vadia, trying to fool your old friends like that. When did you decide to go on a diet?" "Diet, hell," she said. "If you'll excuse it, darling. Do you know how many operations they had to make after you were so ungentlemanly as to put a bullet into me? And how many operations to erase the signs of those operations? I was a shadow, a skeleton, when they finished carving me up and putting me back together. And then it seemed like a good idea to try to keep my new svelte figure. Some people do not have as sharp eyes as others, obviously. I have been here for several days. If anyone among your people had recognized this sylph-like creature as Vadia, you would not have been sent here, would you? They would have sent someone I did not know instead." "You knew I was coming?" "Of course not. We did not know who was coming, but we knew someone else probably would be, besides those already here. It is not a job for a college boy with a degree in accounting or foreign relations, even if he can draw his pistol in a fraction of a second and make magnificent scores on the targets that look like men but are really paper. Nor is it a job for an unclaimed